It's time for the Josh Kirby on Sports Podcast.
On this edition of the Josh Kirby on Sports Podcast, after a brief hiatus, we are back, bringing you everything you need to know from the NFL Draft and the NFL schedule release, plus so much more. We hope you can stay tuned for another exciting episode.
I'm glad you connected. This is Dave Johnson, voice of the Washington Wizards. You have connected to the right place because you are listening to my man, Josh Kirby, on Sports Podcast.
All right. After a brief hiatus, we have returned. I'm sure you have missed us. I have sure missed this podcast. It's time to get back to rock and rolling. First off, I hope everybody is staying safe. COVID has just been up and down, multiple reports, seeing everything in the news. So I want to offer, I hope you're staying safe. I hope everything is well with each and every one of you. And before we start the podcast, as always, we're part of the Mayo Please Podcast Network. We're sponsored by Route 11 Chips. You can find them in stores, Martin's, Food Lion, and Giant stores. So make sure you pick up a bag today, because what's better to do in quarantine than sit back, watch Netflix, binge watch your favorite shows, and eat a bag of Route 11 chips. We're also sponsored by PM Plus Reserves. As always, want to give a big thanks to MPT Now Productions, JR Beats Official, and Dave Johnson for all they do for the podcast. So starting off the show, we're going to do things a little bit differently. We're going to start it off now with he's a jolly good fella. He's a jolly good fella. He's a jolly good fella. His name is Dan Dembski, and he just graduated Virginia Tech. Ladies and gentlemen, Dan Dembski on the phone with us.
Josh Kirby, my brother, man. Thanks for having me, man. I missed you, and I missed the podcast, and I missed the people. I missed it all.
Yes, we have missed you as well, Dan. You're finally graduated. You're finally done. It must feel really, really great, Dan, to be using that college diploma to work as a transporter at our local hospital.
Hey, I don't need the snarkiness now. But you know what? It was a great 2 years at Virginia Tech. I wish I would have cherished more stuff, because I mean it flew by quickly, and here we are. It's hard to believe. Still trying to take it all in that I'm I officially graduate on Friday, but we're not going to be too specific. I'm done basically. I don't have any more work to do. So Friday's that quote unquote graduation, which is virtual. So you know what? I loved Virginia Tech. I loved everything they did for me, and I'm just very blessed, very fortunate to have graduated from a great school like Virginia Tech.
Oh, absolutely. It's a great school, great history, great culture, and the athletics program by far one of the best. Their football program, a lot of history, but you've covered it all, Dan, and we're happy for you. Congratulations. And we're glad you're back on this episode of the Josh Kirby on Sports Podcast. So you ready to roll?
Let's roll, man.
Let's roll.
Put us downhill. Let's go.
Let's roll. The NFL Draft. 7 rounds of an NFL Draft virtual. It was very interesting to see. Cliff Kingsbury's setup was probably the nicest of them all. because he was sitting on his couch overlooking a very nice Arizona view. I assume he is based in Arizona, but all the setups, all the war rooms between the coaches, general managers, whoever was able to have cameras in their house to get filmed, making the selections. Some people had 3, 4 monitors, some had one. The setups were unique. I'll say that first off. Roger Goodell making picks from his basement, that was unique. Roger Goodell asking fans to boo him virtually. I never
Yeah, that was
expected
cool.
that, but hey, I mean, the whole virtual setup was just very, very interesting in my mind. I'm sure you watched some of the draft, Dan. Was it unique watching it?
Yeah, it was. I thought it still had the graphics and the appeal of a normal NFL draft that we come to expect. But yeah, you're right. There was a lot of interesting little quirks this year with how certain coaches were set up. I even felt like, normally they have cameras in players' houses the first couple rounds. I thought that seemed a little different too, because it just seemed more laid back and more casual. And yeah, I really liked Roger Goodell's setup. I saw something earlier in the week where he went on like a little tour of how everything's set up, and he basically had a full service, studio in his basement with all the cameras and this all the the HD screens and just everything going. It was really cool to say the least. So I thought it was interesting. There were some moments where there was silence, where they were a little slow to cut out to whatever they were trying to cut to. So that's really my only beef with the draft in general. It seemed to be a little laggy at times, but overall, man, I thought it was really well done by the NFL, really well done by ESPN, Disney, of course, who owns them. Did it on ABC and ESPN. I think I watched the ESPN one. But they did a good job covering a lot of the players. It seemed like it moved faster this year, and maybe I'm wrong, but it seemed like it was just one pick after the other after the other. Even in the early rounds where the teams have more time to pick, and they really didn't get a chance to, I feel, dive into too many players in depth because they were making the next selection. But overall, I think it was really well done. I think it's something the NFL can consider. Maybe they can do sort of a hybrid sort of draft next year where they have part of it virtually and part of it in person, or whatever the case may be. I think they proved that this could work, and I was impressed with how it was done overall.
Yeah, the NFL draft was supposed to be held in Las Vegas, but due to COVID, that's the setup they went with. And when they had a camera shot out there during the first day of the draft, you could just see Las Vegas was completely empty. You never see Las Vegas empty. So that just goes to show the magnitude of what COVID has done for the sports world, basically.
Yeah, I think in general, there was a couple times where they would cut to, ESPN would have their Bristol location, which is their prime location for their for Sports Center and all those sort of places, and they would cut out to sort of the courtyard where you'd and like sort of in between the buildings where you'd expect to see a lot of people, and it was just empty. And I'm sure I'd be willing to bet if during normal times that's not the case. So, it just goes to show that COVID-19 has affected all levels of life, and it doesn't just pick one or the other. So I'm glad that there's some sports on the horizon for early in the summer. I'm sure we'll talk about that at some point. But it was just refreshing, Josh, to see the draft because for months there was nothing. We had at least a month of no sports at all, maybe even a little longer. I think it was early March, so it was closer to 5 weeks that we hadn't had any sports at all. So it was refreshing to see, and I think a lot of people were excited about it, and I think it turned out pretty well at the end.
Yeah, I like the production of the whole thing, and it was just great to watch something sports related. So,
Mm-hmm.
that's from the studio side, our perspective of how the draft went. But the actual NFL draft, I want to dive right in with you, Dan. I have all 7 rounds printed out that I printed off and studied. We
Okay.
obviously do not have all the time in the world to break apart all 7 rounds of the draft, but we'll do the best we can to give you our insight on the picks we liked and so on and so forth. So, Dan, starting off with the first round, I mean, the first 2 picks were pretty lock solid picks. They were locked in. Both Cincinnati and Washington fielded trade offers, but they just wanted to keep the 1 and 2 picks, and it was what everybody projected. Number 1, Joe Burrow from LSU, who just won a national championship, going to Cincinnati, and then Chase Young, the defensive end from Ohio State, going to Washington. So the first 2 there were, predictable, like nothing out of left field. So, with Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, first off, do you think Cincinnati has a shot of developing Joe Burrow into an elite quarterback? And number 2, how will Washington screw up Chase Young?
As far as Cincinnati, I think I do think they can develop him into a winning quarterback, and maybe not elite, but they can develop him into a great quarterback. It's going to take time. I think Bengals fans have to be patient. It's going to be 3 or 4 years probably before you start to see that sort of level of talent creep in. And you also got to think about the Bengals really don't have a lot of help around him at the time. So I think it's important for them to, especially in the next couple drafts and through free agency, try to surround Joe Burrow with playmakers and give him some options. The Bengals are a team they're going to be rebuilding for a couple of years, so we're not going to really see Joe Burrow. I don't believe start to look like a great quarterback until year 3 or 4 when he starts to get his feet under him a little bit. And that's going to take time too in the NFL because a lot of people forget as a quarterback adjusting to the National Football League. You're talking about different speed. You're getting hit harder. You get more wear and tear on you than you would in college. And you have to face better competition at every single team you play. So those are all things to keep in mind for Joe Burrow. I do think he can be a great quarterback. I think he has the accuracy, and I think he has a pretty decent arm to be able to develop. And he's got some speed as well. He can get outside the pocket, so he moves pretty well. And I think this was a no-brainer. For months people were calling this. And I do believe he can become an elite an elite quarterback. They just have to surround him with talent. And that's going to be a tough division too. People, the Browns obviously are going to be better this year. We all know how good the Ravens were. You're not to sort of hype my team up a little bit. And Pittsburgh's going to be better too. So, the competition even within the division is going to be tough. And, I think Chase Young for the Skins, I just think it's a fantastic pick. Again, another one that people called for so long. And, how can they screw him up? I hate to say this, but, the Redskins have been hit with the injury bug for so many years. I think if there's going to be something that affects him as a player, it's not going to be his own play or him just not playing well. It's going to be, he's going to get injured, and the Redskins are going to mismanage that. But they've done a pretty good job cleaning house in the off season. Getting rid of their training staff and all the issues they had with that. I still think Chase Young can be an elite defensive end in the National Football League. But he plays on a team that is known to like you said, screw up players, and it does happen from time to time. And it's I still think it's a fantastic pick, and I do think he can be a great player if the Redskins do all the right things. So
and it's probably going to bring great chemistry sort of to the Redskins in a way, because Chase Young is now joining former teammates Dwayne Haskins at the quarterback position and Terry McLaurin. They both used to play at Ohio State.
Yeah, and I think that plays a role. But you also got to think about the Redskins. I mean, when's the last time they had an elite defender? It's been so long. So I think this is just such a great pick, and we'll see. He's just an explosive player, and this is exactly what the Redskins needed. They've struggled for so long on defense, and hopefully they can build around Chase Young, and similar to what Cincinnati will do with Joe Burrow, just build around and try to make that defense elite.
Yeah, in my mind, the Redskins picking up Chase Young, this is just going to show that they're forgetting about Trent Williams already. They have traded Trent Williams, and finally a cancer is out of the Washington Redskins. But I think they're just moving on, trying to improve the defense. And if they do it without Trent Williams, so be it, because Trent Williams, all he was about was the money, and holding out because of the injury staff, the training staff, but for all those different reasons why he held out. The Redskins are just trying to find people who want to play. Ron Rivera said he wants to find people that want to play for the Redskins, and Trent Williams wasn't one of them. So I do like that pick across the board for both of them. I want to move on. The Lions picked up Jeff Okudah, another Ohio State Buckeye. A trend here in this draft, a lot of Buckeyes were picked and a lot of Alabama players were picked. That just goes to show you the quality of those two programs right there, with how many people are getting picked from Ohio State and Alabama. And another one I want to talk about now from Alabama, the Miami Dolphins. We can debate whether they tanked to get Tua or not, but the Dolphins picked up Tua at the number 5 quarterback position. He had that hip injury in college, but they're saying he's 100%. I still don't think he is, because who can be 100% after a bad injury like Tua had with Alabama? And I'm just thinking, I'm just thinking, is this going to change him as a quarterback at all? Because, I'm going to go back to RG3. This is a bad example. He was an elite quarterback. He ran all over the place, but he wasn't protecting himself. And after he tore his ACL, he wasn't the same after that. So I'm just relating it back to this. Is Tua actually healthy? And do you think he will play well for the Dolphins?
I'm still concerned as far as his health. I think, a lot of the signs coming out of his camp, and the doctors and things who worked on him and worked with him in rehabilitation say that, he's near 100%. And actually he showed a lot of improvement faster than they thought he would. So I have no idea. I really think we're going to have to wait and see what happens, see how he plays on that hip. If we have a preseason, and if not in preseason, then once the regular season starts. I don't know how well he'll play in that first season. I think it's kind of similar to Joe Burrow, where he'll probably show some flashes of really good play if he can stay healthy, and if that hip does, turn out to be as in good shape as they say it is. But he's unbelievably talented. There's no doubt about it. But again, the concern is with the hip, and I remember when the injury happened, I didn't think he'd play again. It was the same injury, that ended Bo Jackson's career in professional football. So, it's a big question mark right now, and we'll see. That again, that's another division that's very tough, and I think the Dolphins. I think they're a losing team this year. I don't think anyone's going to be surprised if they go 6-10, or I think 7-9 is honestly a good run this year if they're able to get to that record. So I think Tua is going to show some flashes. I really do. But again, the hip still concerns me, and I really don't know. And I don't think anyone knows for sure until we see him step on the field how healed that hip's going to be.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with that more. You literally took the words right out of my mouth there.
Great minds think alike, you know?
Absolutely. Justin Herbert, with the 6th pick, he gets picked up from Oregon to play for the Chargers, another quarterback who was projected to go high. Other notable picks, I like Henry Ruggs from Alabama, the number 12, going to Las Vegas. It's the new Las Vegas Raiders this year.
John Gruden, baby.
Oh, yes. Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver from Alabama. I want to talk about this Dallas pick more. CeeDee Lamb from Oklahoma, wide receiver. It was sort of a questionable pick in my mind, because Dallas has other holes they need to fill, and they straight out got another weapon for Dak Prescott. But in my mind, I'm not sure if Dak Prescott will even be with the Cowboys next season if he's still asking for too much money. But your opinion, do you like that move?
I do. I think CeeDee Lamb's an incredible receiver. He was fantastic. He was fantastic at Oklahoma. He really, I think, was one of the best receivers in the draft, and certainly they thought so as well. I am concerned with Dak Prescott. I don't think anyone's feeling confident about that, about him moving forward. I think he's going to want a lot of money, and he really has not proven himself as the Cowboys quarterback. So, I do love the CeeDee Lamb pick, though. I think he was one of the most solid players, not just receivers, but players in the draft, and certainly coming from an elite program like Oklahoma, where you face, maybe the defenses you face are not very good in that conference specifically, but I mean, he has great speed, great hands. I think it's a great pick for the Cowboys, but it's all about chemistry. It's going to be all about if he and Dak can connect at that level, and if they can, I think the Cowboys have a legitimate threat on offense. But again, it's all Dak just doesn't impress me as a quarterback, Josh. I'll be honest. He just doesn't blow me away with any of his intangibles, and he's had a couple good seasons. There's no doubt about it, and he certainly has played well at times. But he hasn't put it all together for me, and I think that's a concern. And this is a huge year for him to see whether or not he's on the level that people think he is.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving up to the number 13, I forgot to mention Tristan Wirfs, an offensive tackle drafted by the Buccaneers to protect the new Tom Brady in Tampa Bay. That is still surprising to hear Tom Brady to Tampa Bay.
Weird.
But yeah, very weird. But Tristan Wirfs, if you saw that video, him jumping out of a pool, that's incredible.
I missed that. How did I miss that? I don't know, but
you missed it. It was on. They showed it on the draft. Him jumping out of the 5-foot section of a pool, like doing I forget those hops or whatever, but in a pool, jumping out to the surface and sticking the landing. And I thought that was incredible. And if Tristan Wirfs, it looks like he's from Iowa. He just looks like a monster at the position, and I think he'll play the position very well.
Yeah, and I think that's a great pick. They've had problems giving up sacks and having interior offensive line issues. So that is such a key thing for them to draft him. And I'm reading here. What?
I mean, they didn't really care because Jameis Winston was the quarterback, but now with Tom Brady, you have to protect your prized possession.
Right. Yeah, and if Brady gets hurt, he could collapse into dust. He's so old. So that's definitely a concern going forward for them. I like the pick. I'm reading here he has 34-inch arms. Oh my gosh, that's insane.
Wow.
He's huge. He's huge, no doubt about it. But this is a good pick, and probably one that surprised some folks, I'm sure. that early in the draft, but it seems like it's going to be it seems like it's a solid choice for them going forward, and definitely the number one thing you want to do is protect that pretty face of Tom Brady.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Moving on, the Eagles pick up Jalen Reagor from TCU, wide receiver, another weapon for Carson Wentz. Late on in the first round, I really, really want to dive in deep because there's a lot of coincidences on the 26th pick. The Green Bay Packers pick up Jordan Love, a quarterback from Utah State. And Aaron Rodgers got picked up about the same time, the exact same date. I saw it on Facebook, the stat. He got drafted the same pick to back up Brett Favre. And Aaron Rodgers, the prodigy that he is. And I'm not going to speculate, but Jordan Love could be the next prodigy in Green Bay. I think Green Bay is preparing just in case.
Yeah, I think this is a great move for them, and it makes a lot of sense. Similar to Brett Favre in 2009 or 2005 rather, when they made the move to draft Aaron Rodgers. He had some injury problems, and he wasn't the same player he had been in previous years. And I think this is very true with Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love. We've seen Aaron Rodgers the last 2 or 3 years battle through injuries and hasn't been himself, especially the last couple seasons with the Packers. And this makes a lot of sense. You have a 42-year-old quarterback. Once you get around late 30s, early 40s, you got to start thinking about the future. And I think it's a great move for the Packers to take Jordan Love. He had a pretty good college career. I'm not sure he didn't play in an elite program, but his stats speak for themselves and what he was able to do at Utah State. I think going forward, I do think he's a backup quarterback to start, and I don't think anyone's disagreeing with that. But this is just way too similar to what happened in 2005, where Rodgers for 3 seasons or maybe 4 seasons sat behind Brett Favre and tried to learn the offense and just learn how the NFL works. And I think that's going to work with Jordan Love because Aaron Rodgers was also from a smaller school and wasn't from a huge power. Well, I actually went to Cal, so back then Cal was, pretty established program, but Utah State is not on the same level. But anyway, I do think they're looking towards the future, and I think that's something that good franchises do, Josh. I think you have to realize at a certain time when you start to see play drop off, or in this case, you see your aging quarterback, have a lot of injuries. You got to start thinking about what's our next move? What do we do next? And I think the Packers are doing that, and it's definitely the right decision.
Yeah, it's just way too similar, like you said. So I wanted to bring that up. So who knows? Maybe in the next couple of years there might be a new leader in Green Bay. But
absolutely,
it's going to be interesting. I'll give you this one, Patrick Queen from LSU, inside linebacker drafted by the Ravens. Any thoughts since you're a Ravens fan?
I like the pick. He definitely has a lot of skill set, a large skill set as a linebacker, and a lot of people are trying to compare him to Ray Lewis, and to that I say slow down, please. We haven't seen him step on the field yet, but he is, from the tape I watched where he was just dominating, and playing in the SEC where game in and game out you're facing elite competition. I really, really like the pick, and I'm not going to speculate that they took the next Ray Lewis because I think that's really oh God, sorry, I lost my train of thought there.
Wow.
I think it's having a little mental situation there where I just lost myself. He's not Ray Lewis. I don't think you can draw those comparisons, but if you think about this pick in the context of how the Ravens season ended last year, where that the interior of the defense, especially the linebackers, were unable to slow down Derrick Henry, and he gave up about 200 rushing yards to him in that playoff loss, shocking playoff loss, I might add. This is just a perfect pick, and I think the Ravens they're a Super Bowl caliber team already, but this definitely adds a whole other level to it. And I think Patrick Queen's a great pick, and Lamar was one of the ones who Lamar Jackson called him called him Ray Lewis or whatever. It's like I get the hype. Like, players want to hype up their current players want to hype up their draft picks, but slow down a little bit. Let's put the brakes on that. But he is definitely going to step in, and they're going to ask a lot of him in his first season. So we'll see if he can handle it.
Absolutely. So that's about all for the first round, unless you have any notables that I left off.
I don't think I have any. Well, what about hold on.
TikTok.
Oh, never mind. That's a second round pick. Okay, never mind. Yeah. I think we covered just about all the ones that I was interested in discussing.
Well, I just want to make sure you get your input in. This is the graduation episode. I can't leave you hanging.
Gotta put that graduation song on the end of the podcast if you wouldn't mind.
I'll try, but no promises. Second round.
I'm joking.
Second round here. T. Higgins gets drafted, a wide receiver, to a weapon for Joe Burrow from Clemson, getting drafted to the Bengals. I like the pick there. Michael Pittman, a wide receiver from to the Colts. I like that pick. I'll jump down to the number 5 pick, the New England Patriots. This pick goes to show you don't have to be D1 to get drafted. Lenore Rain. The only reason why I know the name Lenore Rain is because somebody from my high school is playing football there. Other than that, if I had no clue he was going there, I wouldn't know what Lenore Rain even was. A D2 school, and the Patriots picked up Kyle Duggar, a safety from Lenore Rain. And this is a huge pick. Nobody saw this coming, I don't think. Nobody. And when the pick happened, I mean, Kyle Duggar was on the radar, but I don't think it was this early in the draft. And this is such a Patriots thing to do, Dan.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Yeah, this is such a Patriots thing to do. And because the Patriots will take talent any way they get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is only something Bill Belichick would do. He finds somebody who fits his scheme and fits it well, and I'm sure they had a lot of conversations with Kyle Duggar. He might not have known he was going to get taken this early in the draft, and especially I had to look him up. I had no idea who this guy was, because I even had to look up the school to make sure it was a real school because I had no idea. Did a little draft research, but the Patriots desperately needed that position filled. There's no doubt about it. They really don't have any elite players in their secondary. I'm not saying he's elite. I have no. I still don't know. I mean, I'm not questioning that pick, but I'm questioning how he can play when he hits the field. I think that's what everyone's going to say, but. You're exactly right. This is only something that Bill Belichick would do, though. I feel like he always plays head games with people, especially in the draft, but just in general. This seems to me to be like a head games pick. Like maybe he says, I found a diamond in the rough, and I'm just going to take him early on, and you've never heard of him, and you probably don't have him on your board, so I'm gonna show you up in a way. I feel like that's what Bill Belichick was doing. So interesting pick to say the least, and I would be willing to bet there were a lot of Google searches to figure out who this guy is. But yeah, he can definitely make a difference on a defense that desperately needs help, and I feel like he can make a difference for sure.
Yeah, wait, let me just correct you on one thing there. Are you sure it
Yeah, what did
wasn't
I say?
Are you sure it wasn't Bill Belichick's dog making the picks?
Yeah, that is true. That is true. His dog was sitting in his chair. That was one
Every
of
time
the
the
most.
camera panned in on Bill Belichick's house, it was his dog.
He
That
hates
that
being
was
on
the best
camera.
part of the draft.
I think it's Doggate now. We can call it there with the Patriots. Um, but he just really doesn't like being in the spotlight at all. And seemed like every time they put the camera on him, when his dog wasn't there, he would just stand up and walk out of the room or leave the room. It's a little sketchy to me if you ask me. But yeah, if his dog made the pick, then that might have explained taking this tiny school guy. But definitely an interesting pick, and probably one of the best pictures from the draft was Mr. Belichick's dog sitting in his draft chair.
All right, so moving on. Panthers pick up defensive end at the number 6 of the second round. Yetur Gross Matos from Penn State. A lot of great things I've heard about him. The 7th pick, Robert Hunt, an offensive guard from Louisiana, drafted by the Dolphins to protect Tua. I heard a funny stat. The Dolphins had so many draft picks, they could have drafted Tua and then a whole offensive line to protect Tua, which is incredible. It's incredible how the Dolphins worked this whole draft.
Yeah, I feel like they were preparing for this for some time, obviously loading up draft picks, and they basically drafted a whole team of guys. So it's obvious that they're trying to change their culture, change everything about their team, and that's sort of the message when you go out and you have like 100,000 draft picks like they had. And they had 4 of the draft's first 39 picks, which is also something very interesting.
Yeah, very, very, very interesting.
So I got to give them credit. I think they did a good job in the draft. They cleaned house. They had a whole new coaching staff last year, and now they're reloading in the draft. They reloaded in the draft. So I'd say it was a pretty good draft for the Dolphins. And with the Patriots' future uncertain, who knows what that division is going to hold for the next 5 to 6 years or so.
I couldn't agree more. With Tom Brady gone, well, in the Patriots name and pick a quarterback in this draft. So what's going to happen?
No.
What's going to happen with New England? Who knows? But
who knows? They always seem to find something though. That's just how Belichick is. I don't know how much. I don't even know how much longer Bill Belichick's going to stick around, Josh. To be honest, I think if they have a losing season this year, I feel like he retires. That's going to be my hot take. We'll see if it holds true. But
hot take. Writing that down. I'm writing that down.
Absolutely. Highlight it so we don't forget about what I said now.
All right, moving on. Moving on. More picks. The 11th in the second round, the Bears pick up tight end Cole Kmet from Notre Dame. First tight end in the draft, I think, between the 2 picks, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, the first tight end.
Yeah.
And other picks, Anton Winfield, safety from Minnesota. I heard great things about him. Darrell Taylor, defensive end, going to Seattle. I had a brain fart there. Geez. Chase Claypool, wide receiver from Notre Dame, going to Pittsburgh. Trevon Diggs, another Alabama player, quarterback, going to the Dallas Cowboys. This move was terrible. The number 20 in the second round, the Los Angeles Rams draft a running back, Cam Akers out of Florida State, to replace Todd Gurley. If you remember the episode with we had with Jason Kamlowski, he mentioned how running backs have terrible stock and you shouldn't pay a lot of money to draft a running back. And the Rams did the exact opposite and went out and drafted a running back. In my opinion, this is a very, very bad move. Because running backs, you shouldn't pay a lot for them, But I'm not sure what.
Well, they're not.
I'm not sure what your thoughts on that are.
I felt like Cam Akers, he had a great season the year before he's drafted, but this past season he definitely slowed down as far as his production. I don't really think it's a bad pick. I actually disagree with you. They're not paying. First of all, they're not going to be paying him that much money that they would have to pay a franchise running back. And I think the tape on him shows that he can read defense as well. That he's pretty shifty, and he can step in and maybe they can use him in more ways than one. Maybe they can use him in the passing game as well. I really don't think it's a bad pick. So I'm not really sure. I know, stock in running backs is they probably could have gotten a running back later, and I think that's the point you're trying to make.
Yeah, absolutely.
Third or fourth round. Yeah.
Round running back.
Yeah, I think that side of it. I think that side of it makes sense. Yeah, they also had the 57th pick, 5 picks later, which they took a receiver. So, it's definitely interesting to say the least. I agree with you that they might have they might have jumped the gun a little bit there, but they definitely needed a running back, and I think Cam Akers was a good choice. They probably could have waited till the third round, or they had 2 picks in the third round as well. They had 84 and 104. They probably could have still been up there in 104 and maybe even in the mid fourth round when they had the 136th pick. So I see what you're saying, but I feel like maybe they felt like he wasn't going to be there, and they were looking down the list and said, well, here's some teams that may take him in the next 10 or 15 picks, whatever the case may be, and they went ahead and pulled the trigger. It's interesting to say the least, but the draft is full of these sort of picks that are always kind of surprising. So.
Absolutely.
I like the pick in general, though. I do. I do agree with you that it was a bit early and they could have waited till later. But maybe they hit the wrong button. Who knows?
Yeah, but that is what makes the draft so interesting. All just the suspense and because you don't know after like the first couple picks who's going to take who, and that's what makes it interesting, like you said. So moving on to 21 in the second round. I think this is a surprise. The Eagles draft Jalen Hurts, quarterback, Oklahoma. We all know the story. Jalen Hurts gets benched for Tua Tagovailoa in Alabama, and Jalen Hurts transfers to Oklahoma and has an outstanding season with Oklahoma. My reason for a surprising pick is because I think the Eagles are drafting an insurance quarterback just in case Carson Wentz goes down in another playoff game, because we all know what happened. Carson Wentz, the past 2 times in the playoffs, he has been injured and was unable to play. And I think this is sort of an insurance pick. I'm still surprised he fell this late in the draft, given his numbers, but still a very good pick either way.
I agree with you, but I also think there's another layer to this, and I think it's to challenge Carson Wentz, because even when he has played at times, he has been less than impressive. Of course, he was probably battling injuries a lot of times during that. But Jalen Hurts is far from just an insurance policy. I think they could replace Carson Wentz. Maybe not this season, depending on how the season goes for Carson Wentz. But if he gets hurt again, I think for sure you could see a situation where Jalen Hurts takes over and plays well, and they never look back, and it's the end of Carson Wentz in Philly. He's 27 years old, so I mean he's not old by any stretch of the imagination in football years, but as far as quarterbacks. But I do believe Jalen Hurts, that this could be a pick of the future. A lot of people may not see it like, an Aaron Rodgers situation in Green Bay, but I really do think Hurts is talented enough. He's played well enough, and he can prove himself in the NFL.
All right. Good insight on that one, Dan. Now let's get your insight on J.K. Dobbins, drafted by the Ravens, an impressive Ohio State running back, a very great move in my opinion. But your thoughts since he's now a Raven?
I love it. I think it's a great pick. They've made sure they have Mark Ingram. They also have Gus Edwards and Justice Hill in their backfield, but J.K. Dobbins could really be like a 1-2 sort of punch with Mark Ingram. And I think they could use him a lot in the passing game. They talked about during the draft, and they showed a lot of highlights of him, running pass patterns and catching the football, and run after the catch was a big thing for him. So, I really love the pick. The Ravens are just trying to reload on offense and get as many talented players as they can to put around Lamar Jackson and try to put themselves in better position to be a Super Bowl caliber team. I love the pick, and I was psyched when they drafted him because I think they can use him in a lot of ways. And with Greg Roman as the offensive coordinator, I think he's going to draw up some interesting formations, ways to use him. But I think it's going to be a huge success, for J.K. Dobbins, and for the Ravens. I think it's a great choice, to say the least.
Yeah, I really like the move. J.K. Dobbins, I have loved what he has done for Ohio State, and I think he will continue to do great things for the Ravens.
I absolutely agree. He was a beast at Ohio State, and they were just loaded with talent, and he certainly was a huge part of that as well.
All right. Wrapping things up here on the segment here. That was the first two rounds, our recap of the first two rounds. Let's talk about other notables throughout the rest of this draft. In the third round, pick 101, the Patriots pick up the tight end, Dalton Keene, out of your alma mater, Virginia Tech. Dan.
He is fantastic. And he's sort of like a Swiss Army knife sort of player where he can deliver. He can play tight end. He's played fullback. He's done a little bit of everything. He's just versatile. And I was a little surprised he went in the third round, to be honest with you, Josh. I thought he was more of a fifth or maybe sixth round guy. But the Patriots like what they see, and I love the pick. I think, Bill Belichick, like I said before, he always has a couple surprising picks up his sleeve, and he had a couple in this draft, obviously. I love the pick. I loved watching Dalton Keene play because he plays with such a fire and a passion. And he was always fun to watch while I was at Virginia Tech and before I got to Virginia Tech. So I think it's a great pick for the Patriots. I think he can really be, like I said, a Swiss Army knife. He can help out in a lot of different ways. And this is an offense that's going to need a lot of people to step up this season, and I think Dalton Keene can play a big role in that.
Absolutely. Yeah, Dalton Keene, I've seen him on TV before. Your analogy, Swiss Army knife, I think it's the perfect role for him. And
yeah, absolutely.
Being on the New England Patriots, that's a plus.
I don't think there's a better team he could have been drafted by. At the start of his career, I think it's the perfect situation, and I think he's the perfect type of player to play under Bill Belichick. And a lot of people are talking about, obviously they lost Gronk, so I think Dalton Keene could be a big part of their passing game in 2020.
Absolutely. Moving on, round 5, pick 151. The Los Angeles Chargers pick up a homie, wide receiver from Virginia, Joe Reed. And then pick 152 and 153. At 152, a safety, Kenny Robinson from West Virginia. 153, the 49ers, Colton McKivitz, offensive tackle from West Virginia. Then pick 158, the New York Jets pick up cornerback Bryce Hall from Virginia.
Bryce Hall. Mm-hmm.
So a lot of locals getting picked up in this, quote unquote locals, but local schools in our area. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 people in the 5th round so far.
Yeah, that's good to see. It shows that there's a lot of talent spread across Virginia and West Virginia, and it's exciting. Even though I'm far from a UVA fan, I think it's good to see someone like Bryce Hall get picked. He's a fantastic player, and he was a big part of the reason why the UVA finally won last year, and he's had a great career there, and I think he deserves it. And he's definitely a talented player. Watching him in the NFL, it's gonna be pretty exciting.
Pick 167 in the 5th round, Jake Fromm from Georgia.
I was gonna talk about him.
Yeah, do you think that was late, or do you from Buffalo, by the way? Do you think that was a late pick, or do you like where he ended up?
A little. It is a little late, but you got to think about the kind of year he had in his last season at Georgia. I think if he came out last for the good Lord, for the 2019 NFL draft, he would have been a first round pick, no doubt, or early second round pick. He had a fantastic junior season. Actually, he was a sophomore. His junior season this past year, he lost a ton of talent. People forget that, and he really had to sort of start from the bottom, and didn't always get the most help around him. This past season, like I said, he lost a lot, and I think that showed why he fell so far. Maybe he didn't. I don't think he fell as far as as he. I don't think he. I think he fell further than he should have, to be honest with you, Josh. But I mean, you got to look at his last year at Georgia. Really didn't have very good protection. He still had a decent amount of weapons, but not nearly like he had the season before, where Georgia was just loaded across from front to back, and they had a lot of guys from that national championship contending season the year before on the roster. So, Georgia lost a lot, and like I said, I think the protection was a big part of why Jake Fromm struggled a lot in his last season. He definitely has the talent. He also did not do well at the combine, and that's something that I think was brought up by Mel Kiper during the draft coverage. He was underwhelming at the combine with his arm strength, which is something that in college they saw a lot of. He threw the ball really well in college, but I think that was another reason why he fell off, was because he performed so poorly at the combine. Or maybe not poorly, but not as well as was expected. But he's going to be one of those guys to watch out for. I don't really think he'll play much, for a couple seasons. But I think with time developing and learning the game, he could definitely come in and make a big difference. If not for the Bills, then for some other team.
Absolutely. Last but not least, one more player I want to talk about, another homie. The last and final round, pick number 231 by the Dallas Cowboys, quarterback Ben DiNucci from JMU.
How about that? Yeah.
Going to the Dallas Cowboys.
Interesting pick. I think he's a practice squad player. You get picked like that towards the end of the draft, and you've got a lot working against you. But he was fun to watch. I watched a lot of James Madison games the last couple seasons, and getting a chance to see him throw the football. He really has a good arm, and was really slinging it all over the place, especially when JMU was making their 30th, it felt like, national championship run. No, I'm just being facetious, but he was a big part of those teams that had a lot of success, and he was just impressive to watch at JMU, and probably a guy that was definitely under the radar coming from an FCS school, but great pick by the Cowboys. I think he's going to be used as a practice squad guy, a guy they can sort of game plan off of what the opposing quarterback's going to do. But it's good to see. I saw that he was drafted, and I smiled because he was fun to watch. I got a chance to see him on TV during JMU's reign the last couple years in FCS.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's really great to see local kids getting drafted to the
Absolutely.
big leagues. But that's about all we have for the NFL draft. We recapped sort of the first two, and then just a few players I just wanted to talk about in rounds 3 through 7. But it was a lot of fun. We have more to come, but we will take a quick break first. When we return, Dan and I will be back to recap the NFL schedule release. We'll be right back. You're listening to JK Sports.
The Josh Kirby on Sports podcast, part of the Mayo Please podcast network, is sponsored by Route 11 Chips. Make sure you grab a bag today inside your local Martin's, Food Lion, and Giant stores. And our new sponsor and fellow sports fans at PM Plus Reserves, providing reserve studies for homeowner and condominium associations in the Washington metropolitan area for the past 30 years. Make sure you check us out on all streaming platforms via the Mayo Please and the Josh Kirby on Sports podcast. You can also find the Josh Kirby on Sports podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, along with the Mayo Please on Twitter. Have any questions for the show? Feel free to shoot us an email at kirbyonsports@gmail.com.
All right, we have on the phone with us now from West Liberty University, 8 pass deflections, 2 interceptions, and 66 tackles in his senior season. The one, the only Mr. Joshua Ojo, coming from Sharando High School, making his way to West Liberty University and trying to make it into the big leagues. Josh, thanks so much for taking the time to be with us. First off, I hope you and your family are staying safe during these uncertain times. And just tell me a little bit about how things have been going. I know you haven't been drafted yet, but has any teams reached out to try to get you in for a workout or something yet?
No, I haven't talked to any teams. And first of all, man, Josh, thank you for having me, man. We've known each other for a long time, dude. This is kind of cool, man. Thank you for having me.
Hey, yeah, anytime, man.
Yeah, no, I haven't reached out. No teams have reached out to me. I haven't been in contact with any teams. No teams have been in contact with my agent, but we were supposed to have our pro day March 24th at Shepherd, where I would have been able to talk to some scouts and they would have been able to see me, run and all that type of stuff. But that was canceled due to COVID-19, and I hope everybody's staying safe and stuff like that and following all the protocols so we can get through all this stuff and get back to normal. But yeah, man, nothing so far.
Yeah, hopefully that will change. I know in our area, a lot of people would love to see you make it to the pros. I'm still hoping for the best, and I will actually have Josh's highlight tape on YouTube linked down below to this podcast so you can check out how great of an athlete Josh really is. So, Josh, want to start off West Liberty. Your time at West Liberty, it seemed to me, I'm not sure about anybody else, but to me, it seemed you had a very successful 4 years at West Liberty playing football for them. You sort of exploded your junior and senior season, and you had last time I checked, you had a pretty decent amount of tackles, and I've seen some of your film. You've looked outstanding. So tell me about your time playing for the West Liberty University Hilltoppers.
I mean, it was really tough, you know what I'm saying, to get to that point of my junior and senior year. There was a lot of trials and tribulations, but man, I had great teammates around me, dude. A lot of great teammates that would push me every single day. A lot of teammates that were just that I came in with in that class that worked really hard and just wanted to make me really work hard. And I had to learn like a lot of stuff. I had to learn how to be coachable. You know what I'm saying? Like in high school, it was, I wouldn't say it was like super easy, but in high school it really wasn't that hard. You were just like having fun. But when you get to college, it's a whole nother game. So I had to learn like the game of football like all over again. But man, for the most part, I had a lot of fun because of the people that I was with, but really didn't like the losing part. We really weren't that good, winning wise, but man, I wouldn't change anything. I had a lot of fun. I wouldn't change anything. If I could go back, I'd do it all the same because I learned a lot.
That is very great to hear, and yeah, I like how you pointed out the transition from high school to college, how you sort of had to relearn the game. That is a very interesting aspect to the game. But moving on, draft weekend. I'm sure you were tuned in. Were you anticipating at all? Like, were you like on the edge of your seat, like? Maybe some team is just going to reach out and maybe I'll get picked. Because there was another D2 from Lenore Rain University who got picked up by the Patriots. So what was your mindset like going into the draft weekend?
All right, so like me and my agent, we were really being optimistic about like getting a call for like to be invited to a rookie minicamp. We both understood that from a business perspective, like me being a smaller school guy, playing for the team I did really wasn't like we really weren't that like nationally recognized. Although like I did like a lot of stuff and was getting recognized nationally, but we like as a team like we really weren't out there. So I came like I was at a really smaller school. So like from a business perspective, like everyone has to understand that there's like a very slim chance that I was gonna get drafted. So that wasn't even in our heads, and we totally accepted that. We were fine with that. But like getting an invite to a camp was what we were being optimistic about. We felt like I did enough. I did a lot like on the field of play, and it was just unfortunate that I wasn't able to get seen in person by some scouts. But like I said in an interview with Winchester Star, like that I'm not really using that as an excuse because like there was other D2 guys, D2 guy that got drafted, there's D2 guys that got picked up. It just the timing, it just you know what I'm saying, it just wasn't my time, you know. But yeah, like that we were just optimistic about a like a rookie mini camp invite, and we worked really hard. I felt like I was more than prepared for that situation.
Yeah, so anybody who's listening, if you need a good defensive guy, Josh Ojo, you need to pick him up. You need to pick him up. So, um, other than that, Josh, from a fan's perspective, how'd you like the NFL draft? Give me some names that stood out to you in this year's draft.
Oh, dude, I loved it, man. Well, obviously the guy from Lenore Ryan, um, that was a surprise. I didn't know he was gonna go that high in the second round. That was awesome, man. That was really good for small school guys, like for the future. Like, and I seen his film. I actually played with one of his former teammates, and so somebody that got to actually see him in person. We actually have a kid from our school from Sharando that's down there right now. So man, that kid's incredible. I think he's gonna have a long career in the league. But besides him, like I'm a huge Tua Tagovailoa fan. I love that pick that the Dolphins made, and then that pick really stood out to me. And then I also loved the pick by the Broncos going with KJ Hamler. KJ Hamler, he's like a smaller guy, so kind of look up to him because I'm really not that big in stature, just like him. But he went and got picked in the second round, and he really opened up a door for a lot of smaller guys. So KJ Hamler, that was awesome. I like that pick too.
Absolutely. That's great insight by you, Josh. So, before we let you go, Josh, do you have any words of encouragement to anybody trying to make it big? What were sort of the things you did to throw your name out there since you were part of a smaller school, but what were some of the things you did to throw your name out there like, hey, I'm trying to get to the next level?
Well, like having an agent that really helps, and like just working out every day. Shout out James Frisbee and everybody over at Fast. I was working out every single day, and I had my agent working for me, trying to help me get me out there and stuff. He helped me get into the pro day, so I was so thankful for that. Was really looking forward to that, and like I said, just going into Fast over in Winchester every single day working out, that was awesome. I really enjoyed that process. It was stressful, but we made it through. We made it to the end, and man, any advice? I mean, I guess just like for smaller school guys, just exhaust every single option that you have. Like whatever opportunity comes up, you have to run with it. Whether it be like going to like a bowl game or like an agent that reaches out to you, like communicate with them as much as possible, see what their motives are and stuff like that. Work really hard every single day, and like be optimistic about the situation, but just have fun with the whole process. Like just really have fun, because like it could potentially be like your last time like working out for a purpose, like having a purpose, like working out to play football again. It could be like your last time doing something like that. So just have fun, be optimistic, and exhaust every single option. Like that's really all I could say to anybody. So yeah.
That is great insight indeed from you, Josh. Once again, Josh Ojo from West Liberty University. You had an outstanding career. Um, it was impressive, and I just hope you can make it to the next level. And to anybody else listening who wants to make it to the next level, and you're part of a smaller school, that was some great advice given by the one, the only Joshua Ojo. So, Josh, we're fully behind you. We hope you get that call to a mini camp soon, and I hope it will be a great time for you if you end up getting picked. But for the time being, Josh, thanks so much for taking the time to be with us.
Hey, thank you, Josh. And man, any of the local athletes in the area that are going to be listening to this, man, get with my guy Josh Kirby, show him some love, get on the podcast. I had a really good time doing this. Josh, hopefully one day you can invite me back on again so we can just talk sports, anything basketball, football. Man, it was awesome to be on here with you, man. So local athletes, man, support my guy Josh, man. This was really awesome to be on here with him today, man. Thank you, Josh.
Oh, yeah, I really appreciate that and consider it done. You're always welcome on the podcast. But for the time being, once again, Josh Ojo from West Liberty University. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. Once again, JK Sports, we're part of the Mayo Please Podcast Network. Thanks to Josh Ojo for calling in earlier this week to talk with us on the podcast. Back here with a graduate from Virginia Tech, Dan Dembski. The NFL schedule has come out. We're just going to look over some games we like. The NFL is already very different with players moving around and stuff. The schedules are going to be a little bit different, but I'm excited to see how this pans out. Starting off, Dan, let's just start off right with the homecoming, the Texans at the Chiefs for the banner raising at Arrowhead Stadium to start off the NFL season. It's going to be different because, DeAndre Hopkins isn't there, but still an electrifying matchup to start the NFL season.
Yeah, I think the game. I think it goes. It's going to obviously go in the Chiefs' favor, but I think it starts off pretty close, and then the Chiefs just run them out of Arrowhead in the second half. They're just way too talented, and I think the Texans have lost too much. Especially on offense, and they put a lot of pressure on Deshaun Watson to do it on his own. So I think it turns into a 3-score blowout by the end of the game, and I just think the Chiefs are way too talented. I feel like when they scheduled that matchup, it would have been a more competitive game. You would have had a playoff team against this contending or the defending, not contending, defending Super Bowl champs. So I think Chiefs run away with that one. Pat Mahomes and company are just too good.
Yeah, and week 1 on Sunday, starting off right out of the gates, some rivalries. The Eagles are at the Redskins. The Dolphins are at the Patriots. And Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers playing in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome against Drew Brees and the Saints. That's one to look out for. Week 1, they're giving us a lot to watch in week 1.
Yeah, that looks to be a really good week. And obviously that's the highlight. That's going to be how, Tom Brady versus Drew Brees. I think everyone's going to want to see how the Buccaneers can put it together and see if Brady is for real in a Buccaneers uniform. I still can't get used to him being a Buccaneer either.
Yeah, I can't either.
But that's definitely the most compelling matchup out of that list. I also would like to say that the Cardinals at 49ers, I think, is interesting as well. The Cardinals, I think a lot of people are going to sleep on them this year. But Kyler Murray is a good quarterback, and I think he's going to be even better in his second season. And be excited to see how he comes out facing the defending NFC champion 49ers. So that's going to be an exciting game as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the matchups. Week 1 is always a great week because you don't know what each team has to bring. It's like the start of a huge battle, the race to the Super Bowl. And week 1 is very exciting for so many reasons. I'm just so looking forward to the NFL. Moving down, let's talk week 2, I guess. Broncos and Steelers. That's going to be an interesting matchup. In my opinion, without Joe Flacco anymore and Big Ben coming back, I expect that to be sort of a close matchup. The Patriots and the Seahawks, an 8:20 slot on Sunday Night Football. That might be a very interesting matchup because, the Patriots without Tom Brady. The Saints and the Raiders, I think that might be a rather interesting matchup as well. I'm just listing off games I think will be interesting this season, but who knows?
Yeah, I think there's exciting matchups every week. I mean, it's obviously we say that every season. I really do like the Broncos Steelers matchup. You got a young Broncos team looking to who I think's got a good amount of talent, go against the Steelers team that's trying to get back on track as well. The last couple of years haven't gone their way. That's a good one. Chiefs at Chargers, I think, is a decent matchup. I think the Chargers are another team that's under the radar, and I think they like it that way. And then let me see what else we got here. I think that's really the most. Those are the most exciting matchups for me for week 2. I don't know many people that are going to be excited about Bengals at Browns on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah,
who gives a crap? Who gives a crap about those two?
Oh my God.
I think that's
Let's move down to week 4. The Ravens at the Redskins.
Oh yes, that's right. This is the year.
This is the year. Last time it happened, Kirk Cousins, good old Captain Kirk.
Last 2 times we played y'all won. So we're not going to talk about that.
Well, I don't mind the Ravens. It's just another matchup, but who knows? If the Ravens beat the Redskins,
it wouldn't be shocking to say the least. But that is a game that's
care.
Yeah, I know. That's a game that certainly I have circled because a lot of Redskins fans still remind me of Kirk Cousins coming off the bench after RG3 got hurt and throwing the game-winning touchdown pass against my Ravens. But you know what? That was years ago, and this is now. And I think the Ravens get a huge win there and get the monkey off their back in the Battle of the Beltway. So we'll see how that one goes. But there's some exciting matchups in week 4 in general, Josh.
Yeah, absolutely. Every week, like you said, interesting matchups across the board. Moving week 5, Sean McVay's return to FedEx Field as the Rams play the Redskins. That's going to be interesting. Week 6, interesting matchups here. Looking the Browns and Steelers,
Yeah, that
not
should be a good
not
game.
not really anything interesting week 6. I'm looking to see
Packers
Chargers
and
and the
Buccaneers.
Dolphins.
Yeah,
Chargers
good
and the
one.
Dolphins. I've circled that one, because
Chiefs
the
and
Dolphins
Bills.
have
That's
picked up
interesting.
a lot. The Chargers picked up Justin Herbert. You said you said who?
The first one I said was Packers at Bucks.
Oh,
That seems like that could be an interesting game.
Yeah, I didn't even see that one. My goodness. That is going to be amazing.
And then Chiefs at Bills. I feel like that could be a pretty good game. We'll see. I think the Bills could pull an upset in that game. I don't know. We'll see. The NFL is interesting. There's some weird stuff that happens every week, it seems like. So, yeah. But yeah, that Packers Bucks matchup definitely is exciting. I think that's going to be one.
Yeah, that will be really exciting with
circled.
Tom Brady in the NFC now, and Aaron Rodgers in the NFC,
and Jordan Love being their starting quarterback by week 6 for the Packers. Yeah, should be good.
Oh my gosh! A lot to look for in the NFL schedule. Cool stat I realized. The Redskins don't have any primetime games this year. None.
Yeah, I noticed that.
And the last time that happened, they won the Super Bowl.
I wouldn't get my hopes up there, Mr. Kirby. I know I don't mean to offend your DC audience, but yeah, it's going to be. I think the Redskins. I think they win six or 7 games this year, and I think 7 games is a pretty good mark for a team that's trying to rebuild and change the culture. And I think that would be considered a successful season. But yeah, it's strange they don't have any primetime games. There are definitely teams who are worse in the NFL. But
no, they weren't given primetime games because they will lose on Monday night.
Well, yeah, the Monday night was a given.
Yeah.
They could have at least done a Sunday night or maybe even a Thursday night. Usually are not the most popular games, so they could have thrown them in there. That wouldn't have been bad.
Yeah. On our topic with the Redskins have a really hard schedule this year, and they start off a really rough stretch starting Thanksgiving when the Redskins play the Cowboys once again on Thanksgiving. Then the Redskins at the Steelers the next week, and the week after that at San Francisco playing the 49ers. So those are 3 tough matchups in a row for the Washington Redskins.
Yeah, and like I said, I think the expectation it can't be the bar can't be set too high for them this year. They're trying to figure things out and rebuild. So, I mean, you still should be excited for the future because I think the Redskins have a lot of pieces in the next half decade to really get things going in the right direction. So we'll see.
Yeah, scheduling quirk. I saw this earlier. Week 10, the Jets play at the Dolphins. Week 11, both teams have a bye. In week 12, the Dolphins play at the Jets.
Yeah, that is weird.
The last time something like that happened was 1991, if I remember correctly.
Where the bye weeks and everything match up. Yeah, you see it sometimes where they play a rivalry game will be played 2 weeks apart, but that is odd that they have a bye week at the same time too. So
get that
cool.
out of the way early.
Well, that's a good that's a good trivia thing there, Josh. You should have kept that in your back pocket and asked it at the end. Maybe I could have guessed it. Probably not, but maybe I could have.
Yeah, but. I mean, that's about all for the NFL schedule, but a lot of great matchups, especially early in the NFL week with the Bucks playing the Saints. They played them twice, and the Bucks have a good amount of primetime games as well with Tom Brady and company. So
That's the kind of glitz and glamour Brady brings for sure.
it's gonna be really interesting, I think, with this NFL season, and I'm really looking forward to it.
I have too, Josh. I'm looking forward to doing hopefully our usual, where we lay out the schedule and we pick our games and we pick the final records. I'd like to go back and see how good we were last year with our picks. So,
I might have to bust open the archives.
Bust open the archives, yes, sir.
Yep.
And then we can do it again this year too, just for some fun.
Absolutely, we're having fun with this. I hope you all are enjoying listening to each and every one of our episodes. We try our best. It's great being back after a mini hiatus. Just wanted to take some time, regroup a little bit, but we're back better than ever. Dan, I'm glad you're back with us. It was very fun having you on the episode today. I hope we can do it more often now that you are an alumni at Virginia Tech.
I'm certainly glad to be back. I missed it. I was bogged down with school and stress and anxiety with school stuff. So it's good to have that in the rearview mirror and just be working here trying to make some money. You know how it goes, and hopefully being able to contribute every week, and maybe on social media too. You might see me on there as well.
Yeah, it must have been even harder doing online class.
Yeah, it was tough. It was really tough. Most of the professors understood, but I had a couple that it didn't hold any punches. So it was always interesting to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely. But Dan, it's been a great pleasure having you on the podcast. That's about all the time we have, unfortunately, for this edition of JK Sports Podcast. As always, you know where to find us on all streaming platforms via the Mayo Please and JK Sports. That's short for Josh Kirby on Sports. If you haven't gotten it by now, I'm trying to shorten the name a little bit. As always, we're part of the Mayo Please Podcast Network and sponsored by Route 11 Chips. Make sure you find a bag today inside your local Martin's, Food Lion, and Giant stores. And we are sponsored by PM Plus Reserves. As always, want to give a big thanks to MPT Now Productions, Dave Johnson, and JR Beats Official for everything they have done. Dan, once again, thanks for your time. For Dan Dembski, I'm Josh Kirby. We're signing off. As always, be well and stay safe, and we'll be back again soon. Until next time, so long.